平，对不对？不公平的事。好，所以在腓立比书，我们等一下会看腓立比书那边有写很重要的一段，但是其实我们会发现，我们活在一个充满生气、愤怒、恨恶、暴力的一个世界，而且越来越是这个样子。好像很多地方开始爆发，好像很多这一代跟年轻一代，我的这一代，好像越来越就是往这个方向，完全没有办法解决里面所发生的痛苦。你会看到，I speak English. We live in an age that's full of hate. It's full of rage. Rage 就是 anger， 但是更严重。Rage that's full of violence. People are being raised and taught in a way that they don't know how to handle the things that are happening inside of them. They don't know what to do with those things. It explodes outward. 我们现在也是更多紧张，更多忧虑，更多这个事情，好像越来越多人要吃药，为了它越来越多。然后我不是要误会我的意思，真的有一些情况底下，我们也需要药。但是我的意思是说，有比平常更多，特别是年轻人，完全没有任何的安全感。有这种东西，you know what I mean？ 我用英文。Depression and anxiety are at a level today. There are medical conditions where we need medication. We need to deal with depression. That's normal. But what we're dealing with today is much beyond what is normal. Everyone is anxious. Everyone is depressed. Every young person has some mental illness today. There's a reason for that. That's not normal. But people have been raised in a way they don't know how to deal with the things that happen to them in life. Someone does something to them, and I don't know what to do. If you're going to say something that someone does not agree with, you have to first warn them so that their feelings don't get hurt. It's ridiculous today, the age we live in, because we don't know what to do with being disagreed with. Having someone say something we don't like. Having someone look at us in a way that we think means but maybe doesn't. There's no evidence. So we live in a very strange state where the flesh is what people live in, and it's just full of hate, full of violence. 应该我要不要就用英文？你就用英文，然后我们可以看国语的经文，然后我就 I just use English. Okay, that'll be different. So I'll try to not get too quick and excited, but we'll see. 好, so let's look at Philippians. 我们可以读它的国语。But let's look at Philippians. This is introduction. We'll look at verse 1 through 2. Let's read this. It says, 所以
在基督里，若有什么劝勉，爱心有什么安慰，圣灵有什么交通，心中有什么慈悲的怜悯，你们就要意念相同，爱心相同，有一样的心思，有一样的意念，使我的喜乐可以满足。
So in the English it says, be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. So we see here that what God wants from us is for us to draw together because we are a family of God. Family should be something that comes together. Family should be on the same team. Family should be on the same team against the world, against other people. And many times what we see in our families is siblings are almost even more cruel to their siblings than other people are. If there's an opportunity for me to make fun of my brother or sister and make them embarrassed in front of their classmates,得奖, right? Oh, I can't wait for that. So if they trip and maybe people didn't notice or they spill something on themselves, they will be the one to say, look at my brother, and make sure everyone's laughing, And then that person is angry. Why would you do that to me? And so sometimes families are some of the most cruel and hurtful to us, even beyond other people. And how God views family is not that way at all. And it's not just the Christian family, the church. It's also in our homes. We are to be on the same team. We don't mock each other. We don't make fun of each other in front. If someone is gossiping about our sibling, we do not participate with that. We come to their defense. When mom and dad need to tell their child something, if Logan comes up to me and asks, hey, can I go to my friend's house today? Well, you're still young for that, but later. Yeah, I'm going to go to my friend's house. If dad says no, he should not go to mom, and mom say, oh yeah, that's fine. And then he said, yeah, but dad said no, so which one is it? And then now I'm upset because mom said yes and I said no, and mom's upset because what's the big deal? And so we start arguing and fighting in front of our kids, and our kids, they're eating popcorn saying, who's going to win? That should not happen in our families. Yeah, that should happen. Does that happen? No. So that shouldn't happen in our families because what? If dad or mom says no, the other parent agrees with that. If I need to go talk to my wife or my wife talk to me, we do that away from the kids. And we do that in a way where there's peace and there's consideration and there's respect and we agree on something. If we need to then come back and say we have changed our mind, we will allow you under these circumstances. Then that's okay, but we're not going to fight about it in front of the kids. One parent is going to support the other parent and we're going to be a team. And that's how the family should do it. So you see from this verse, that's how God views family. That's how God views the church, Christian family. We are in the same family. We are to be on the same side. So this is background, but it's very important foundation, very important background. So let's look at verse 3 through 4. It says here, 凡事
不可结党，不可贪图虚浮的荣耀，只要存心谦卑，个人看别人比自己强，个人不要单顾自己的事，也要顾别人的事。
Yeah, so here it says, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of other. In lowliness of mind, in qianbei, in humility, let each esteem other better than themselves. Remember when Jesus, last week we talked about this, Jesus, he says, you want to know what the law is. If you want to take the whole Old Testament law, all 633 commandments, and just make it one simple statement, it's this. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. What is God's purpose? I want you to know how to respond and respect me and love me and be close to me because I love you. And next, I want you to be able to get along with each other. I want you to know how to treat other people. I want you to know how to be a good neighbor. I want you to be in your society and be able to treat each other in a way that you should. So I'm giving you a law to make things fair, to teach you how you should act. Because in your flesh, you're not going to do what you're supposed to do. You're going to hurt someone for your own advantage. You're going to steal from them. You're going to take them to court to try to take away everything so you become richer. You're going to abuse your power to make yourself wealthier and more powerful while other people suffer. Mankind is a mess in our flesh. So in order to keep that from happening, here is a law to make you love one another. But what I really want for you is from your heart, for me to give you the power because of the cross to actually love each other the way you should. And that's the purpose. So we should love each other. We should deal with other people better than ourselves. I should treat other people the way I myself want to be treated. The problem is, as we're going to see, that's how it should be. And in our hearts, we know what's fair. But what happens if someone doesn't treat you how you should be treated? I will not treat you that way because I don't want to be treated that way. What happens if they treat you that way? 不公平. So that's what we're going to look at because things are not fair. So but let's keep on with the background. Let's look at verse 5 through 8. It says here, 你们
当以基督耶稣的心为心，他们没有神的形象，不以自己与神同等为强国的，反倒虚己，取了奴仆的形象，成为人的样式。既有人的样式，就自己卑微，存心顺服，以至于死，且死在十字架上。
So Christ was our example because think about what he did. He became a servant. In many cultures around the world, a servant or a slave, they are not respected. They are property. You have no rights. We are all about our rights and what's fair. Slaves have no rights. It's not fair and no one cares. So what did Jesus do? He took on the form of a servant, of a slave, to serve other people. At a time when we were his enemies, he came to die for us. When his disciples were arguing who's most important, Jesus put a towel on and washed their feet, which is the job that the lowest servant in the household would do. Because no one wants to do that. It's humiliating. But Jesus, the mighty rabbi, the teacher, the popular person that thousands came to hear, that the Roman government knew about, that the Pharisees and the Jewish court knew about, that popular preacher who was turning everything upside down, he stooped to wash his disciples' feet and taught them, you're not too big to ever do this kind of stuff. This is how you should treat other people. If you're in leadership, you should serve, or you should be willing to at the very least. We should serve one another. So there's little room for me to throw a fit because I'm angry and then I want to lash out and hurt other people, right? So let's keep going. Let's look at verses 12 through 13. It says here, 这样看来，
我亲爱的弟兄，你们既是常顺服的，不但我在你们那里， 就是我如今不在你们那里，更是属福的，就当恐惧战心，做成你们的救功夫，因为你们立志行事，都是神在你们心里运行，为要成就他的美意。
It is a scary thing as a parent when you train your child to do what's right, and then they leave your sight, to go somewhere else, and you really hope that they do what they're supposed to do. We tell our kids all the time, Logan, Allie, I expect you to act at school or at your grandparents' house or at your friend's house the same way we expect you to act at home. Do I not say that to you guys all the time? You're supposed to act out there how you act at home. Yeah, well, not yet. But not yet, maybe someday. But we say that all the time to you. Why? I expect them, because they know at our home there are things you don't do. You do not treat each other this way. You do not throw this kind of fit. You do not do this. You do not, right? There's right and wrong. They know the rules. But I expect you to also over there do that same thing and not become worse, become bad because you can. And so here Paul is saying, I think it's interesting, he's saying something like that to this church. He said, we started this church, we built you up, we taught you, but we're not with you anymore. I hope you'll still continue to do the things we taught you to do. Don't, because we're gone, you start doing something weird or crazy or wrong. No, when we're not there or when we are there, you should work it out. You should grow. You should know what God wants you to do, respond to God, and depend on God to work in your heart, to empower you to do it. And here's a big point in 13. It is God that works in us both to will and to do of His good pleasure. If I want to please God, if I want to read His Word, if I want to be close to Him, that's because God is working in my heart. He's the one who draws. That's not my flesh. That's not us. But we need to respond to God and depend on Him. So we're going to see with anger, we have got to depend on God because we cannot do it ourselves in our own strength. And lastly, for the introduction, let's look at verse 14 through 16. It says, 凡所行的
都要发怨言，起争论，使你们无可指责，时时无悔，在这弯曲悖谬的世代，做神无瑕疵的儿女。你们显在这世代中，好像明光照耀，将生命的道表明出来，叫我在基督的日子好花我没有空好，也没有徒劳。
That's funny. In the morning, I didn't notice verse 15 it starts with T. I didn't realize that until now. Yeah, so same verse. That's a good verse. He wants us to realize what? When we fight, when we can't get along, when we don't live how a family should live, and look, this ruins our testimony. It hurts. Our fighting affects our testimony and effectiveness for Jesus Christ. It's like the Corinthian church. You remember they were taking their 弟兄姐妹 to court to sue them for silly things. They were going before a lost judge and a lost court and taking all the church's things and saying, hey, look at this. Look at what he's doing wrong. Look at what they're doing wrong. We can't settle it ourselves. I want his money. And even the lost people were saying, why would I want to be a Christian? You can't even get along. You're fighting about little things, same as everyone else. So what was he telling us? We as God's family are to be able to deal with things ourselves. We are to be able to solve the problems and be at peace with one another. Because when we fight, especially over silly things, we ruin our testimony with people. Because who wants to come to church? Who wants to be a Christian if there's no power to live differently? Because everyone fights about silly things. That is normal. That is human. But who can forgive their enemy? That's supernatural. That's not normal. That's not natural. So we need to live in a way that has power, that has testimony, but we need to depend on God for that. So the number one cause that we see that we get anger, the number one cause of anger in our hearts, I really think is when we get hurt. That's why we get angry. Someone does it, right? Someone hurts me, and so I'm angry. Because there is hurt, there is anger. Now, this morning we said too, just because I have anger, that doesn't mean it's sin. God gets angry at sin. Jesus flipped the tables, was angry that they turned the temple into some kind of religious, tourist trap. And instead of worshiping God and being a place where people could draw close to God and please God and find God, it was just a place to make money. And he was so angry. Jesus, God, because can he sin? No, he's perfect. And yet God gets angry. And yet at the end times, because of seeing how mankind is, and it just gets worse, he will unload judgment on that, and it is just, and it is earned, and it is fair. But you see, God gets angry when he doesn't sin. And so when you and me, we get angry, but that doesn't mean it has to be sin. Anger itself is not sin. When I cheat and have a temper, that is because I am in my flesh and it's coming out and I am acting on that anger and that becomes sin. But just the emotion of anger, that's not a sin. It's what we do with it that matters, and that's our point. Someone hurts me, I'm angry, but what am I going to do about it? Am I going to use my car and hit their car several times because I'm angry? Am I going to take my keys and down the side of their car because now I feel better? No, that's wrong. So things that hurt us deeply are things like rejection. When we are rejected, and I'll go quicker. This morning we should leave it, but when I am rejected, when I face rejection, that hurts me. I get angry, and then I have the chance, the temptation to sin with that anger and do something I shouldn't do. When we get hurt, we get hurt by betrayal. When someone betrays me, oh, that stings, that hurts. You thought you were my friend, and you said that behind my back. You did that thing. I thought you were on my side. You pretended to like me to my face and say good words, but when you were with them, you just had only bad things to say, and now I'm paying for it. That is not fair. That hurts. I'm angry. That's very natural. Another thing that hurts us is loss. When we lose, when what someone does to us makes us lose, suffer loss. Oh, that makes me angry because it's not fair. Why should I pay that? Why should I lose that? Why does this happen to me, God? Sometimes we ask God that too. I'm hurt. I've lost. My child died. I've suffered loss. I'm hurt. I'm angry. Why? Some things that make us have hurt is irritation. We become irritated. Something happens around us in our environment. I'm standing here and I'm thinking, I'm trying to do something, and Logan accidentally kicks my leg. Oh, that's irritating. Well, am I going to have anger and lash out at him? No, that's wrong. But I still feel irritated. That qi huang made me feel angry in the moment. Another thing is sometimes guilt. When I have a guilty conscience, I can get so angry about that. And do you remember the prophet Nathan came to David and told him a story about a sheep? He said there was a poor man, he had nothing, but he had this one lamb, and this lamb was like a daughter to him. They were so close. He would come in the house, she was a sheep. She would live in the house with him, she would sleep next to him, she was loyal to him, come along with him, he would pet her. It was like a friend, so tame. And then a rich man had a friend come visit him, and he had all these sheep in his pasture, but he didn't want to lose one of them because he didn't want to lose money. So he went and forcibly took that little lamb from the poor man, slaughtered it, and fed it to his guests. And you know what, David, who was a shepherd, oh, he was so angry. Do you remember? Who did that? Find him right now. We're going to execute him. But you know what? The truth is he had a guilty conscience because the story was about him. Bathsheba. Uriah, he had a wife, right? The whole story is about him and how David did that very thing. He had all of this, but he stole that man's land and then executed Uriah in the battlefield, made it look like an accident. It was a horrible thing. Yet you see David's response was anger because he had a guilty conscience. And sometimes for us, we are the most sensitive and angry towards things that are our own weaknesses. My child does something that I myself am weak and I don't feel like I can win in, I am extra angry when they do that thing. Because I have a guilty conscience that bothers me. And so, boom, it wants to come out as anger. Another thing is fear. We're afraid, and so we get angry. We lash out. Disappointment. Someone disappoints us. I'm hurt. I'm angry. But one thing that we want to focus on a little bit more is another way we get hurt is when our rights are violated. We as human beings, especially in modern society, we know that we have rights. I expect people to treat me this way. I expect this to be fair. I expect to have this. In fact, I am owed this. And if we're not careful, what happens in modern times, and you see it all the time, is pride comes along where I expect and I demand that I have this thing, or else I'm going to cheat and burn something. Right? We see it all the time in the world. Nepal just happened in America. All over the world, we see this kind of mindset. I have my rights violated, so I'm going to throw a fit and burn everything and and make other people suffer because I'm hurt and I'm angry and I want to throw things. So the rights violated things is important because if we are not careful as Christians, when our rights are violated, we will erupt in anger. So you see this a lot in Christian families. In our Christian homes, with Christian parents, Christian kids, you see this all the time. The three most common rights that are violated are the right to be treated fairly. A child and their family expects to be treated fairly. In our home, for example, Allie and Logan know if we're playing with your sibling and one of the other person says, please stop, what that means is immediately you stop. Because you respect the other person, you treat them right, you have the right to be treated fairly. What happens is, and I used this example this morning, is Logan went to school, and in our family, he knows that when he says, no, thank you, I'm done, please stop, Allie must stop. And if Allie says that to Logan, Logan must stop. But when he goes to school, the problem is not every family has this rule. Some they're not even Christians. So why would they raise their children this way? Just take what you can get, right? Just be mean up there. It doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, sajiao, right? As long as you're not caught, it's all about what you can get from people. That's the world. That's the flesh. It's not fair. It's not right. But so Logan goes there and someone's messing with him to annoy him, to anger him because they think it's fun. And Logan says, please stop. And they pull stop. And so what happens? They keep pushing. And Logan says, I said stop! And he yells out loud. And the teacher comes over to say something. And he yells at the teacher because he's angry, because he's hurt. Because it's not fair. So do you know what I'm saying? That happens with us is when we aren't treated fairly, we get angry because we have a right to be treated fairly. Another thing is we have the right to be treated with honor or respect. We should be respected by other people. We teach our children, respect other people's things. Is that your car? No, then don't lean on it. Is that your pencil? No, then don't pick it up, play with it, set it somewhere else. That's theirs. Respect their space, respect their things, treat others how you want to be treated. But what happens when people don't do that for you? When they pick up your things and steal it or take it away, when they break your thing and they just laugh like it doesn't matter, and there's no, I'm sorry, let me pay you back. There's no right there. What do you do with that? Because it's not fair, and it makes you angry. We have the right to control what is mine. My body, my room, my possessions. Right? So people are very aware that these are rights that we expect to have. Stop means stop. No means no. Quit means quit. Leave means leave, right? And it should be respected. So what happens today when people don't respect these basic rights as people that we think we have? We get angry. We get hurt. What should we do with that anger, though? So we see the root sin of rights-based mentality. When we have this idea that I have rights, and I get so angry when someone breaks my rights, violates my rights. See, at the root of that, though, is pride. Let's look at a verse. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 10. It says,
骄傲使起争气，听劝勉的却有智慧。
It's not a very great, it doesn't feel good. The verse isn't very wonderful of a truth, but it's very true. Look around at people and you'll see this too. When I expect that I demand to be treated this way, and you don't treat me this way, I'm instantly enraged, and I want to sue you, I want to take everything you have, I want to burn something, break something, erupt. That is because of pride. I demand that you treat me a certain way, but I don't have to treat you that way. It's pride. And so why we have problems, people with people, comes from pride. If we were humble, and if we lived in the Spirit, if we were saved, we would not have these conflicts with each other. Because you can't hurt a dead person. You can say what you will, but I'm dead. I'm buried with Christ. My flesh is over there. I'm living in the new man. You can poke a dead body, but there's no funny. You can say what you want. You can do what you want. I'm not going to. You can't bait me into having that reaction to you because I'm dead to those things. But when my pride is very much alive, you just have to breathe in my direction. Oh, so clear. Because of pride. And that's really at the root of it. When we're angry, we try to hurt other people back. And we do this in one of three ways, don't we? We do that verbally. We say unkind things. We curse them. We threaten them. We yell at them. We know that they're sensitive about something and they're self-conscious about something, so we purposely say words to poke that area to make them feel horrible and to make them go away, maybe cry. We do that on purpose with our words because I'm angry, I'm hurt, so I'm going to use my words It's like a knife, like a sword to cut you on purpose. And then another way we do it is we do it physically. We might push them. We might brush past them when we walk by them. We might make certain gestures with our hands or with our face, or just look at them, beep on the horn. We do something with our bodies physically to get back at them. Moses, for instance, what did he do? He took the 10 Commandments. He saw Israel. He was so angry at them. He took the 10 Commandments God had just made and smashed them on the ground and broke them in pieces. What else did he do? When God says, speak to the rock, Israel has made you angry. But do not, as a leader, show that anger in front of the people and model for them that it's okay to throw a fit. I want you to speak to the rock, be calm, do not rise to what they're doing. They are making you angry and expect you to do certain things. Do not. Be a leader, be calm, be in control, speak to the rock, and tell it to bring forth water for everyone to drink. But what did Moses do? He was angry, and so he took his staff and smote the rock, and he modeled for the people that it's okay when you're angry to do those kind of things. And what did God say? You can't go into Canaan now. Because you did that, you're the leader. Every eye was on you, and they knew the situation. You lived for them. I specifically said, do not do. Now you may not enter the promised land. Only Joshua and Caleb from that generation will go in. So it had a very hope. So when we're angry, we have a choice. We can either react in the flesh, or we can respond with biblical principles. We can do it God's way, or we can do it the natural way, which is the way our flesh wants to. So very quickly, because we started a little bit later, but also our time's about done, let's just look at, here's some 8 steps I think we should do for dealing with anger. When our rights are violated, here's the truth. Anger, things that make us angry, having our rights violated, that is just life. That is going to happen to everyone. It does. From Adam and Eve all the way till now, it has constantly happened for everyone. We get in this mindset together where people think they are the only one that something is happening to. It's only unfair for them. You have it so good, and I don't. That is absolute baloney. 有听过 absolute baloney 吗？ baloney 是意思是废话，但是 baloney 是一种肉。Anyway, that's a 片语 baloney. It's a 圆圆的一种火腿类的一种肉，反正是那种类的东西。But baloney 是假的，它不是真正的好的肉，它是所有其他东西都混在一起。So baloney 我意思是那是废话，没有真正的肉的那个内容。So having that mindset is pride, and it's not being aware of what's real. It's unfair for everyone. That is going to happen. But what I do with that unfairness, that is what matters. I'm angry. What am I going to do with that anger? And I can act in the flesh, react to it in the flesh, 发脾气, which is 自然, or I can do it God's way. And so he tells us a different way. He's given us a plan for how to handle our anger the right way. When we are angry, we have a choice. Like I said, we can react in the flesh or not. God would have us to do it this way. First, identify the problem. What is making me angry? And sometimes we'll immediately know what makes me angry, but sometimes we may have to think about it. I feel very angry constantly, and things have happened all over the place. I don't know what specific thing is making me so angry. I just know that I'm angry, I'm short, I'm irritated all the time. I wake up that way, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm just inside. So I might need to think, what is making me so angry? I may need to pray, God, can you help me? Did some one thing happen that's making me angry? Is it several things? I need to know what is the problem. And along that line, we need to remember that the root problem is that we all have flesh. The root, that the plant of the problem, right? The problem grows from the root. That root is that we all have a flesh, and the flesh does what it's not supposed to. The flesh does not please God. The flesh is completely selfish, and we need to be aware that problems come because we have a flesh, but specifically too, why our anger leads to sin. The plant of sinful anger comes from a root of pride. That's why we have contention. Why we have problems one with another. I have pride, and because of that, my anger becomes the sinful kind. God is not prideful. He has anger, but it is just. It is right. So it's not the problem of anger. It's the problem of what happens with that anger. And when it comes from pride, from the flesh, it's bad. And that's the problem. So we need to identify the problem. So let's look at Luke 9:23. It says, 耶稣又对
众人说：若有人要跟从我，就当舍己，天天背起他的十字架来跟从我。
So the second thing we need to do is crucify our flesh and our pride. We need to imagine, think of it this way, my flesh, that part of me, was nailed to the cross with Jesus. They took it down off the cross and they put it in a tomb and rolled a stone over it. It's over there dead and buried and locked up. And I am over here in the new man, in the spirit, free from my flesh to please God. And I need to remind myself and have that mindset. Crucify, put away the flesh, humble myself before God. God, I do not want to be prideful. Help me to tell and have the right thought. Let me put my pride over here. Let me put my rights over here. Let me put my expectations that everything's going to be wonderful and everyone's going to treat me right over there. And let me humble myself and put my flesh over there. My flesh is what is sensitive and gets hurt. If I put it over there, there's a chance that I can deal with it the way you want me to deal with it. So identify the problem, crucify the flesh and our pride. And then 3, mortify that right. That word comes from a specific verse in English, Colossians 3:5. Let's read it. It says, 所以
要致使你们在地上的肢体，就如淫乱、污秽、邪情、恶欲和贪婪，贪婪就与拜偶像一样。
所以the word mortify there, 致使我们的肉体. So that right, that idea that I have these rights, that's not fair. You hurt me. I need to mortify, I need to put to death that right. I need to release it and give it to God. I'm holding on to it tightly. I'm so angry. But I need to actually be willing to let God have that and let it go. God, they did not respect me like they should. I'm so angry, that's not fair. But I need to release that right. Because it's okay if they treat me right or not. That still doesn't matter. I can do what's right. Oh, it's hard to do that. It's not fair to do that. But we need to be willing to release it. And then what we need to do after that is purify our spirit. So Philippians 2:5 says it this way. It says, 你们当以基督耶稣的心为心. Yeah, let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus. He humbled himself, he became obedient unto death. Very important. Let's purify our spirit. 更新我们的思想, change our mindset about that. I'm separating from the flesh and my pride. I want to purify my spirit. I want to be in humility. I want to let go of my rights. There's another verse too, Proverbs 25:28, that's very important. It says, 人不制服自己的心，好像毁坏的诚意，没有强人。A person in English says, he that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Back in those days, a city was safe or not based on if it had walls. Walls were what protected it. People could get on their horses and come through with great speed and kill people and steal things very fast and be gone. So they built walls to protect them so that soldiers could be up on the walls and shoot arrows and defend the city. But a person who can't control themselves is like a city that has no defense. The enemy 随时要来就可以来. The devil can just come, the flesh can just get offended, and instantly like a city with no walls, the enemy just comes in and goes whenever it feels like. A person who cannot control themselves is such a danger. So we need to be able to control our own self and our own spirit. And we live in a world where people, it looks like, increasingly can't control themselves. They're raised from childhood. Find your own way. Find your own beliefs. Do what makes you happy. What does your heart want? What gender do you think you are? It's all of this kind of stuff. Let's take all the walls away and just go wherever. You know, there was an interesting study, I didn't mention it this morning, but a scientific study. They studied children's behavior, and it was very interesting. At school, they let the kids out for recess, to play outside. But they took all the fences away from the school, and it was just open. And there was no property lines. It just led to the woods, to the street, everywhere. And you know what the kids did? They were little like, all of them stayed close to the building. And they kind of just played right next to each other. They were in a group. They didn't spread out like kids do. They were all in a group. They were next to the building and kind of uncomfortable. But you know what happened? They took the same group later. They built the fences around. And when the kids went out to recess, you know what they find? The kids went all different directions. They were comfortable. They spread out. They started playing happily. My point with this is, people today think that we need to sit on our children and give them no wager and they'll be happy. But children need boundaries. They don't know what they're supposed to do. That's why they have parents. What actually makes a child be bold to go out into the world and find a way is when they know who they are, when they have boundaries, when they know what right is, what wrong is, who they are. Right? When they know these things and have 方向, they're brave to go out. But when they don't, they have anxiety, they have fear, they live with their parents till they're 40, and they're not willing to go out because I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm on this earth. I have all these mouthing because I'm just a mess inside. It's not healthy for our kids. So you see, the world's idea versus what God says is very different. He wants us to be able to be taught from a child how to control our spirit, to know what is right and wrong. So someone can hurt me, but I will control myself and do the right thing. Because that is what's right, and I'm going to please Jesus. And that is so powerful. It's so important. So the next thing we can do is we can beautify the situation with forgiveness. Meaning we can just forgive them. We can offend the person on purpose. By an act of our will, forgive them. This is so incredibly difficult to do. Forgiveness is hard. Really quickly, Colossians 3:13, it says here,
倘若这人与那人有嫌隙，总要彼此包容，彼此饶恕。主怎样饶恕了你们，你们也要怎样饶恕人。
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. These people are spitting at me. They have beaten me. The Bible says I don't even look like a man anymore, a human being. I'm so ripped up and torn up and beaten. It doesn't even look like just a piece of meat. And yet, right then, when I'm hanging there on the cross, what did Jesus say? He says, forgive them. Oh, if you're really God, as though that's not obvious. I'm a religious leader. I love the Bible, but the God of the Bible is right here. The author is right here, and I hate him and I put him to death. How messed up is that? And yet, what did Jesus do? Forgive them. So Jesus gave us this example. When we were his enemies, like Romans said, when we were sinners who could do nothing to please him, that is when he gave the ultimate sacrifice to make a way for us to be right with God. He gave his own blood, his own life. Do I really need to pause a baby? Is there any way this can pass from me? It was a horrible experience, but he still did it out of mercy because he loved us, because he forgave us when we didn't deserve it. We did nothing to earn forgiveness, and yet he offers it to us. And we, as his children, should be like that. Peter asked, how many times should we forgive our brother? And Jesus says 70 times 7, right? And you know, the truth about forgiveness is it's not just one time. Maybe to the person's face, I might tell them, I forgive you. And one time's enough. But in my heart, the truth is, the deeper they hurt me, the more it's going to take time for me to really live in forgiveness with them. Because they hurt me. I'm angry. I wake up in the morning and I'm angry again. So I have to keep forgiving them. I need to decide right now. I feel it. So I need to do what? Let go. And I choose to forgive them. I need to do this whole process again and tell them and do forgiveness again. Maybe an hour later, I'm angry again. I need to forgive them again. I don't know how long that will take. It depends on the situation. It's very shameful sometimes. But the bigger the hurt, it may take longer. And yet, I have to choose on purpose again and again and again, as long as it takes. I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to let it go until it heals inside. If I want my heart to actually heal, I need to live in forgiveness. If I hold on to it, if I become bitter, if I become hateful, I'm only going to destroy my own self. Hate and anger is a poison. Physically, medically, there's a lot of research on this. That kind of bitterness and anger and unforgiveness and unthankfulness is like poison in our system. It affects our health. We die early. Like it, just something about it is literally like poison that messes with our body and with our mind. So forgiveness is actually the way of healing. If we want to heal, if we want to potentially make this enemy become our friend, James says, keep coals of fire on their head. Why? They did me wrong, but I do them good. Oh, that is convicting to that person. And if there's any bit of normal human in them at all, that's going to affect them. And they're going to start saying, it's not fun to mess with them. It's not fun to hurt them because they don't fight back. And I don't like that. I feel kind of done because I'm hurting them and they're doing what's right. And I kind of respect them now. And you know what might happen? They might end up becoming a friend. They might end up getting saved. They might end up who knows what will happen with that. It can be beautiful. Joseph with his brothers, you fought evil against me. God meant it for good. You sold me as a slave. You were going to kill me. You were like my enemies. You were my own brothers, my older brothers. But yet God put me in this place that I could be a blessing to you. You are in my hands now. I'm the most powerful ruler in Egypt aside from the Pharaoh. But really, I run everything. I could put you in jail and torture you for months, years. I could make your life horrible and keep you alive on purpose. But you know what? Though you did evil to me constantly, I have a chance now. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to look at your children and say, hey, nephews, nieces, come over here. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to use my authority here to feed you, to help you to grow up nice and strong and healthy. I'm going to bless you because I can. And we see in that forgiveness, that is like Jesus right there. That kind of forgiveness. And it was so powerful. And his brothers wept. And their family grew back together and actually healed because Joseph made that choice. Fair. It's not fair. But it is right. It is pleasing to God. After this, number 6, what we can do is we can pacify with a kind response. Meaning, we can diffuse. You know how diffuse is a cool word. You know how there's like the police, they might have a bomb squad. You know what a bomb squad is? Like there might be a bomb somewhere, and you need people who are trained to go in there and stop the bomb. There's a timer, like 50 seconds, 49, 48. Someone needs to know how to diffuse the bomb. It's building, it's going to blow up, but they need to know how to go, okay, it's off, it's safe now. Diffuse. And so that's called diffuse. And so what we need to do is diffuse the situation with kindness. It's building, it's dangerous, it could explode, but my kindness causes the situation to shrink back down and become safe. I diffuse the tension with my kindness, with my kind response, and that's not natural. So we see here, Matthew 5:44, it says, 只是我
告诉你们，要爱你们的仇敌，为那逼迫你们的祷告。
Yeah. 有吗 Yeah. Okay. 你看对。Yes. Love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. Peter says it this way too. If you suffer for doing what's right, okay, if you suffer because you do what's wrong and you earn consequences, well, then that's normal. But if you suffer for doing what's right and you still are kind, that's worth praising because that's difficult. People can't do that. If I suffer a consequence where I treat people who treat me well, good, but I treat people who treat me poorly, I treat them badly. That's normal. But who can treat people that treat, that's a very complicated way of saying it. You'll build this one. People who are my friends, I'm good to them. And people who are my enemies, I'm bad to them. That is normal human behavior. But this is what Peter was saying. What God wants and what's supernatural is I treat my friends good, but I also treat my enemies good, equally. That is worth praising. That earns samshi, because who can do that apart from God's strength? I think of this morning I mentioned, Charlie Kirk, who was shot. By the way, that whole thing is a great example of what we're talking about with anger and stuff. Someone, because they didn't know how to control themselves, they did not agree with someone, they thought it was okay because of anger and a disagreement to just murder someone. That is one of the best examples I can think of what pride and sin and how this leads to violence and hate in the world. I don't agree with what you say, so I'm literally going to shoot you dead in front of your family and other people because I don't agree with you. Oh, that's horrible. That's the flesh. But what did Charlie Kirk's wife do? Is she stood up there, and it was very difficult. You could see it was difficult for her to do that. I can't imagine. But she says, I forgive that person. And she started crying because she's going to have to keep doing that. Like I said, she's going to keep forgiving him. Even as she says those words, I forgive him. You can see in her face, it's like, I'm struggling with it. That's forgiveness. But you know how powerful that is? In a country like America that's pulling apart because of hate and violence and anger, that is what is needed to diffuse the situation back. How can we disagree with people? We need to be able to disagree with someone, but still be a human to them. And I think of this thing with why I bring up Charlie Kirk is a great example, because if you look at American media, so many people when Charlie Kirk died made fun of him, laughed, were like, yes, he's dead, finally, and kept posting the video. And it wasn't like blurred. They were posting the video of him being shot and bleeding and dying, and his family right there, and they were posting it on media and laughing about it. It's not like, even the news does it where they say, 小心，我们要给你看，而且会变模糊，所以会稍微保护. They were just posting the raw video. And they're laughing. It makes me think about in Revelation, you remember the two witnesses, Elijah and Moses, we think? They come back down and they speak for the Lord in the end times, and people can't kill them and can't hurt them because if they try to attack them, like Elijah, fire comes down and consumes them, and they preach and they prophesy and people get saved. But remember, they are caught and they are killed. And you remember what happens in the end times, the martyrs and 7年灾难. They die and they lay in the streets for 3 days, and they won't let them be buried. And what did people do? They watch them day and night for 3 days and send gifts and laugh and celebrate. And I think about that right there is what's happening now. And you see, that's the end time kind of people. That is humanity in their worst. That I can be so messed up inside because of sin that I can't even treat someone like a human being. I can't even take a moment to be respectful. I didn't agree with them, but you're a human being. I can be respectful about that. But people can't even do that anymore. We're so filled with anger and hate and delusion. And then, oh man, that's the end times. That's that mindset. I'm going to cheerlead and celebrate. That's literally what people are doing today. But yet, what did she do? She forgave. And that's my point. That I take something dangerous and violent and I diffuse it by being kind, by forgiving. From my heart, I do what's right. Oh, that's powerful. That is healing. That is what we need in the world more. And who is going to do that? God's people. Because we are the ones that have the Holy Spirit in us. We're the ones who God can empower to do that. Because in our flesh, we can't do that. And people need an example. So quickly, wow. 7 is justify no fleshly behavior. I will not defend myself, my flesh. I will not make excuses for myself. I want to say, yeah, I did that, but they did. No, I'm going to put away my flesh. I'm not going to let it come back. I'm not going to let it rule in my life. I'm not going to explain it away or give excuses for the fact that I got angry and did that. Or I feel angry and I want to do that thing. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to justify no fleshly behavior. And lastly, we want to glorify Jesus. And how we glorify Jesus is by doing that very thing we just said, these 8 things. We put it away, we let it go, we forgive the person, we talk with kindness, we live with kindness, and in doing so, we glorify God, and we show God's love lived out through us for people who need a flesh and blood example of this. It's on the pages of the Bible. God did it 2,000 years ago, or all throughout history, really, but they need a living example of what this looks like, and that can happen in your life and in my life, and it's powerful. And so, I'll just wrap it up there. I had some more verses about this too, but our time's kind of already topical. So I'll end there. 反正你早上有来，所以最后几个经文我们已经看过。Just we do not want to let anger continue. Anger will bear children. Anger will grow. Anger will make more anger. If I go to sleep angry, I'm going to wake up angry, and the situation's going to get worse. Time is going to pass, and I'm going to drift away from that person, never speaking to them because I'm angry and we never solve this cheat pump. So we need to deal with our anger in a biblical way and let it go. If I can right now get in a fight with Logan, well, Logan, you're only 6. If I can get in a fight with my wife, let's say, and I instantly, because I'm angry with her about this, I can instantly bring up something that happened 3 years ago. What does that mean? It means whatever happened back then, we never dealt with. It's 还是租房子在我的后脑. It's still living in rent-free in my brain. It's still living there, occupying space because it never went away. It's still affecting my health. If I had truly died to that, let it go, forgave them, I would not be mentioning them again. But the fact that I will tie that into right now and make a list of all the ways you've done well means it's still like this inside for years. That's not healthy. So we need to actually go back with that person and say, I forgive you. Can we talk about this and really actually deal with it? God, help me. I want to deal with this and let it go. For my own sake, for my health, if nothing else. Because I'm going to explode if I hold all this inside and it just builds. I need to be able to let it go. All right, let's 低头做一个祷告，然后我们就可以摸到上来。亲爱的主耶稣，我们谢谢你给我们这个时间，我们可以看关于生气、愤怒这些动怒这些东西，因为其实实在说，我们现在的世界越来越多、越来越长，就是活在常常生气的一个状态里面，大家都生气。都生气很多事情，也你在开车的时候，你不小心 太快停下来，还是打扰到隔壁的人，说不定他会停下来想做什么，因为大家都是生气，有好多生气在他心，而且同时我们没有被教导，从小在我们家也就越来越多没有被教导怎么去解决这个事情。我真的觉得是 OK， 如果我害到一个人，因为我生气，因为我比他重要，我是第一，我只要考虑到我自己，我不管我害到你，我做到什么你不喜欢的事，反正我要高兴就好。所以我可以害人，而且有时候我也无法控制自己，所以我就生气乱做东西，然后后来造成一个一辈子有后果的一个结果。哇，这个真的是很重要的一个题目，因为如果有任何的人可以活出你的样子，就是一个幸福，不是因为我们很厉害很强 ，no， 事实是我们是很弱，我们还是人，但是是因为我们可以让你在我们心里做工，我们可以回应你，因为我们得救，我们被释放，我们有选择可以讨你喜悦，很难很辛苦，但是我们可以回应你，也让你在我们心里做这种事情，也医治我们的心，所以我们可以活出你的爱，在这个很需要的一个世界。我们人没有办法爱我们的邻居像你爱我们一样，但是如果有你也在我们心里照亮我们的心，就说活在我们里面，我们可以表现你的爱。所以求你帮助我，这个世界很需要。人一直在找有没有任何的答案，有没有任何的盼望，有没有任何的真正的爱在这个世界，应该就是在我们的心的身上。所以这个主这个很难，这个不容易，这个不轻松，但是很有力量，而且会讨你喜悦，而且会有赏赐，而且是可以赞美的，会荣耀你的行为。真的求你帮助我，不要当很生气的人，太容易，但是会害上我们自己，也会害上周围的人。我如果是一个很生气的爸爸，我会伤害到我的孩子，我也许会造成一辈子的害伤在他的身上，因为我就是一直生气，一直这样子对待他。我记得前几天我看到一个摩托车，有一个妈妈跟她的应该5、6年级的孩子，然后我不知道情况是什么，孩子有没有做什么，但是我就是看那个妈妈生气，她一直用她的那个 elbow 在那边打她的儿子，坐在她后面，那个儿子就坐那边被打，就安静的，然后我就觉得，就让人心很难过，因为你就想在这个环境不健康，那个妈妈有好多事情在她的心里，她需要释放，她自己的健康会受影响，但是那个孩子也会学习，他没有什么重要性，他就是一直做错，他就是要乖乖的被别人虐待，然后没话讲，然后为什么要 try？ 那他会这样子的成长，说不定会造成怎么样子一个伤害在他心里。那这种世界就是充满这种人，求你帮助我们，不要活成这个样子。求你帮助我们，也奉耶稣基督的名求。